Hello everybody and welcome back to the Kirby's Epic Yarn walkthrough. It's time to finish off Treatland. And that's why this part is so very long. Because we've got to play through Melody Town, the boss, and the 2 bonus levels. And you can probably already tell why I really like this level. Because whenever you land on anything, it will bring forth a little musical note with a bee on it, and it's just a really fun and adorable little gimmick. There's a sense of a rhythm game about it, but not hugely. I mean, the main rhythm game comes in this little bit here. I mean, this really does remind me of Sky Concert in Night's Journey of Dreams, which, as I'm sure you'll remember, is easily one of my favourite levels. Also one of my most hated, just because it's quite difficult to do perfectly. But that level just... oh, it's wonderful. Because it's just playing the music of Dreams along with... well, it's just playing the music in the game. It's just a really wonderful little thing. And anything that plays around with music in games is just really fun to me. I mean, well, it was about a couple of weeks ago now, of when I'm recording this commentary, I wrote an article on why more games should feature adaptive soundtracks. Because, I mean, it was just felt right at the time. And I mean, basically what I mean by an adaptive soundtrack is where the music of the game changes depending on what's going on in the game. Which sounds pretty obvious, but what most games these days do is they change between different musical pieces depending on the event. So you have a battle theme, you have an exploration theme, and while they may fade into each other, they are distinctly separate themes that don't necessarily have much of a flow between them. So everything's ever so slightly disjointed. It's not ridiculously so, but it is a little bit. When you get adaptive soundtracks, those are the soundtracks which change dynamically. I mean, they are also called dynamic soundtracks, but I think adaptive is probably a slightly better technical term for them. And that's things like your journeys, and I'm pretty sure Mario games have been doing it for quite a bit. I mean, also, I think the Rayman Legends, because their music levels are sort of adaptive in how they work. And it's that sort of interaction that you get with the game soundtrack that's just really cool. So what happens in Journey is that depending on your actions, different instruments play, you get different strains of the tunes as you go. And there are a reasonable number of games that do stuff like that. I mean, also obviously, prime example, Child of Eden has an adaptive soundtrack because your actions create the musical sound effects, which is just always an absolute joy to hear. And before I ramble on any further without really having a target of where I'm going, I'm going to get my article up actually. So, I mean, Mario Kart 8 is also a wonderful example because you have like Shy Guy Falls, where as you drive around the track, you have certain sections where the Shy Guys are mining, and whenever you drive near to them, you get their little noises in time with the music. And it's only a small little thing, but it's really effective. And then you get like Cloudtop Cruise, where you've got the wonderful string orchestra when you're in the clouds, and then as soon as you transition into the thunderstorm section, the instruments change to guitars, and it's pretty seamless in terms of the transition. But it's dynamic because no matter which part of the stage, well, no matter which part of the music it's at, it will work. And then you have the likes of Mount Wario, which is a different type of adaptive music, so it's different... how should I put this? Different movements of the same song, essentially. Where as you get through the laps, it changes variant, essentially. And that's a really... It's a simple way of doing adaptive music, and it's something that Mario Kart has been doing for ages, because whenever you get to the last lap, obviously you get the speeded up version of the song, and that's very effective. I mean, other examples are the likes of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, that has a pretty adaptive soundtrack, because you have, in the bosses, which is obviously one of the major things that people loved about that game, you have the instrumental versions of those boss fight songs, which play during most of the fight, and then whenever you get to the final section or particularly exciting moments, the lyrics kick in, and it's just really amazing. And also, I mean, a major example of adaptive soundtrack is Portal 2, because you get different little jingles in the backing track depending on whether you're going on repulsion gel, propulsion gel, so repulsion and propulsion, just to make that a little bit clearer, and whenever you're flying over the friendly faith plates, and so on. I think you also get different little things whenever you're holding a cube, like a companion cube. And also, what's really clever is that you can tell whether you are progressing in a puzzle because of the musical cues the game gives you, and it's truly adaptive, which is just excellent. You also have examples in Sly Cooper with its tempo variations depending on whether you're sneaking, running or rolling, and then Wind Waker and Skyward Sword's musical stings during combat. It's stuff like that that just heightens the awesomeness of the game, really, because it makes it much more, I'd say intuitive, probably not the right word, but it does just works really wonderfully. Anyway, we are in the boss fight, and this is Squashini. And yeah, he is another waiting-y type boss, because he's got a roulette wheel, and we are just gonna have to try and deal with him as best we can. What you want him to be doing is doing the cards, because then you can throw the cards at him and you can get a whole bunch of beads. And I think, so the cards and the hats are the ones where you can properly damage him. This one is really helpful for beads, because you need to frantically get yourself out of the rope, and then you can hit the bell. Hitting the bell gives you a ridiculous number of beads. You've just got to be very careful about staying too close to the bomb, because if you're on that bomb when it explodes, you're going to obviously lose quite a lot of beads. But already we have enough beads for that patch. That's how awesome you can do in this fight with getting beads. And I think actually, so You can't hurt him during the flag one, I don't think. You can't hurt him during the rope one. So, you are somewhat limited in when you're actually able to attack him, and you are at the whims of luck. But it's the best you can do, really. I have to say, I don't really know how you're meant to know which hat is Squashini's during that phase, because I don't think there's any difference between them, but just gotta roll with it really, and seeing as I'm doing so much waiting, I just thought, let's bob along to the music. Try and make it a little bit more adaptive, you know? And good grief, we are banking up on those beads. We really don't need any of them anymore. All these beads are going to go to is just fabrics and furniture, really. That's the only thing left to us. And there we go, Squashini is defeated. And yeah, it was pretty simple, but pretty fun fight, apart from, you know, all the waiting around. I never like waiting in video games. It just drags things down so dramatically, and you're just like, why? Don't make me wait. A bit of patience is well, patience is obviously virtue, but still.
Got a piece of the magic yarn. The magic yarn shimmered and spiraled and swirled high into the sky. The yarn weaved its way into the fabric of the kingdom and stitched two pieces of patchland together. Kirby and Fluff came upon a cake the size of a mountain. It was breathtaking. Kirby tried to contain himself, but failed. He dived right in and started gobbling up the cake. I declare a cake-eating duel. And with that, Prince Fluff jumped into the cake as well. The two ate and ate and ate, but they didn't balance their eating very well. Oh no! And before they could get down, the cake collapsed with them inside it. Ugh, I can't eat another bite, Prince Fluff groaned as he rubbed his cake-filled belly. But then, Kirby appeared with a huge cherry in his mouth. Kirby won the contest, and a looming tummy ache as well.
Have to say, I have no idea how Kirby managed to eat any of that cake, same for Prince Fluff, because, you know, Kirby couldn't suck anything in earlier, so how can he eat anything if he can't inhale properly? But, logic in a Kirby game, what's that? Anyway, we have got the first of our bonus levels for Treatland. Cocoa Station. So, by the fact that it's called, you know, station, you can probably tell this is a train level. So it's gonna go rather slowly. I mean, I suppose at least you get this sort of, I want to say samba-y type music, but I don't know whether that's quite the right genre. I mean, it would be rather funny to call this the train samba, but obviously that is simply not the case. I'm pretty sure it's just called Cocoa Station. Because pretty much all of the Metamortex transformation songs are related to one of the bonus levels. So obviously the off-roaders music is Dusk Dunes, obviously the trains will pretty clearly be the horror that is Cocoa Station. And so on and so forth. But yeah, it's just a very slow level. I mean, they do some interesting things with the train, because, I mean, you get situations like this where you have got levers or switches to hit, which will change bits of the level, basically just bring these things down, and that's how you're going to get to your collectibles. So you've just got lots of turning to do, and yeah, it's fine. I'd say the main frustration is that it can feel so difficult to pick up a reasonable amount of beads throughout the level. But I think that just comes with the territory of the train. It's just not really built for bead collection, really. And neither are the levels, so you just sort of make do, really. I mean, if anything, my main wish would be that my damn Wiimote would work a little bit more effectively. Because, I mean, essentially what you want to be doing is constantly drawing a path for your train. Because you are then more likely to be able to keep it going. But obviously there's only so much track you can build. So you do have to pause every now and again to be able to restock, I suppose, your amount of track that you've got available to you. So that's why I end up doing things like drawing the path underneath the track that I'm just working on to try and counteract any problems that I'm going to run into. Now, why are you making me race, gosh darn you? How have you not figured out yet that I'm awful at this thing? Still, I suppose at least we won and we got the crystal star, so that's the important thing. And we're pretty much at the end of the level now. And for some odd reason, they seem to repeat this sort of level design in pretty much every train level, I think. Of the few train levels that there actually are. Because, yeah, you just end up with lots of blocks at the end, and you're just like, oh, okay. Righto. And I'm just really, really, really clumsy with this thing. Like, ridiculously so, but at least we are now at the end of the level. And we do actually have a gold rank already, so I didn't need to hold on to all of these extra carts. But I will take all of the crystal stars anyway, because who doesn't want more beads, even if they are a little bit pointless at this point in time? I can never not love the Kirby dance. It's just so bloody adorable. I mean, if there is one bit of Kirby that will forever stay with me, it is the victory dance, because, I mean, how can you not like it? It's just so cute! But anyway, we have unlocked our slightly terrifying final bonus level for Treatland, Dark Manor. And, I mean, essentially the way this works is it's sort of like the ghost houses of Mario. Which means it's not the best level in the world. But hey, I suppose at least it is a very different take on the Treatland, because, I mean, if you didn't guess from Squashini and his whole pumpkin thing, you're playing with a little bit of trick or treat. You see the pun, obviously. So, it's a nice little gimmick on the whole thing. Which, I mean, considering, like, I'm pretty sure Sweet Mountain was pretty consistent in its being all to do with sweets and so on. It's nice when levels decide to go a little bit outside of their comfort zone, really, or go a little bit outside of the general gimmick. It's why in Lost World, which is a game that I really can't stand, I was quite fond of the in Desert Ruins, which is, well, Desert Ruin Zone, I think that's what it's called. You had Dessert Ruins as one of the levels, which was all sweets and desserts and stuff, which was really quite cool. Obviously, it was just copying Sweet Mountain, but it was a nice little something different. So the level never got truly dull, because there was always something new to do with the general theme. And, I mean, I'm going to keep coming back to this, I think, because it's probably the easiest thing to talk about when it comes to Kirby's Epic Yarn, because it is just so unique. In a lot of, well, not necessarily unique, but it does so many interesting things that, especially at the time it came out, were very fresh. And it's part of why I think Kirby's Epic Yarn is such a great game. You may get bored because it's too easy, but the ideas that are here are ingenious. And I'd say, ultimately, it all creates a much more successful package than what ended up in Woolly World. But yeah, this level, because you're constantly trying to pick up the ghost enemies to try and, you know, illuminate the stage a little bit more, so you've got a little bit more of a clear view of what's going on. I believe that the ghostly enemies that I'm talking about are called Stogs, and they are indeed. They're very weird, because, you know, they're lighting up and all sorts, but... You also have flamers in this stage, if you cared at all. They're basically flaming wheels. Although I don't think we've actually come across... Oh, there's one. There's a flamer. Which, I just successfully got slaughtered by. Basically, if you get in their line of sight, they will charge for you, so... It's just a case of running like the wind. And, for the love of God, don't get hit. Because otherwise you will lose all your beads like I just did there, and it's just like, oh, for crying out loud. You can probably see why, at least now anyway, why I'm not too much of a huge fan of this level. Because it is just that little bit too slow, and I mean, you get to bits like this where you just have to wait and wait and wait. And obviously, as you can tell, I'm not... Like, I'm quite patient, but I'm not the most patient people when it comes to slower games. I like to get on with things. And the other thing is, because it's so easy to miss any of the secrets in this level, you just end up going, please don't say I've gone too far, because otherwise I'll be really sad. But that is the bits that you need to be careful of to get the final collectible. Well, final treasure, which is the theme for Dark Manor. Because you just need to be aware that... of that light that just turns on to your left. And, I mean, it's a very subtle little secret, but it's there, and the fact that it's just visible enough to let you know there is something over here is important, because some of the other little things in this level are just a little bit cruel. I mean, that one was almost really mean. But thankfully it did allow you to see, so that's the important bit. Either way, we are at the end of the level. We should be able to get up to that gold rank as long as we get... I think even getting the 2-star won't do us too much harm. But we got the 5-star anyway, so we are all good, and we got the gold rank. Hell yes! And... that is Treatland over and done with. So, after I think a little bit of glancing at everything that we've accomplished here today, we are going to head straight on to Waterland. So you can probably tell exactly what we're going to be expecting there. I mean, look at that, it's beautiful. But let's head on to Waterland.